There once were two brothers who were smiths, and one day they met a strange man who came by with lots of shiny things, and this man challenged them to make shiny things that were better than the shiny things he already had. Well, you know, it's a challenge, and it's inspiration. It gets you out in the forge, and it gets you hammering, except in this they do a lot of casting rather than hammering, which means that I suspect that the story is actually older than the Viking era. It's been reinterpreted for the Viking era as they re-understand their old gods in a new context. Anyway, the challenge is to build and make presents, gifts for the Aesir that are going to be better than the ones they've already got. So, Brock, like anger and fury, that's their names. We'll call them that, Sundry brothers. They they get together, they work, they make the mould and all that sort of stuff, and they get all the metal mixed right, and then they heat it up in the crucible, they get it ready to pour, to cast. But just as they're about to do it, somebody like mentions something on YouTube or Facebook, and they get distracted. Crazy. And there's a wee break in the pumping of the bellows, and that could be disastrous. But you know, the anger comes in and says to Fury, "Look, come on, man! You've got to get this right. If you don't get this right, it's all going to be ruined, and my head's on the line." So they got the second gift ready, and they got it all set up and all ready to go, and they heated up the metal, and they got the metal to just critical temperature, and this fly came like a midge or a mosquito or something, and landed on the cheek of the guy pumping the bellows, and he went whoosh and swatted it off, but the metal got slightly cold, but not too cold, so when they poured it, it still cast perfectly. The third, the final gift that they were making was going to be the best of all. And the metals was mixed, and they threw in all sorts of magic stuff and all that sort of crazy thing. And they got the metal heated up nicely, and they were just getting it, and they were looking at the colours, they're getting it all sorted. When this fly, this midge, this mosquito came and bit the guy pumping the bellows on the eye. And he let go of the bellows, and he swatted at the fly and tried to get it off, and he tried to stick its head in. Actually, he didn't do any of that. But the important thing was that the mix of the metal became just not quite right. So when it was poured into the mould, it cooled just a little bit too quickly, and there was a flaw in the casting. And the handle on the hammer that they were making wasn't quite long enough. So when they went to show all the Aesir all these things, there was this bet with Loki and with the brothers to see which gifts were better. And, well, you know, there was a boar with bristles that could run. That was pretty cool. And it was matched by a ship, Skapladnir, thin planks, that you could also travel in, but you could fold it up and stick it in a wee pouch, and that would be awesome. There was a ring, Dropnir, that when you turned it, it would produce more rings, so it was gold that made gold. And that matched the hair that was made for Sith, that also grew and gave more gold from that. So that was 50-50, that was not so bad. Then there was a spear, a mighty shining spear, you know, yeah, whoosh, throw it, always hits the mark. That was pretty good. That was a weapon for Odin, which also shows that it was kind of pre-Viking, because, you know, spears, they're not pre-Viking. Vikings were more axes and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the spear was mighty, and it was up against the last piece of treasure that they'd been making, which was a hammer, Mjolnir. And this hammer could be thrown, it would come back, it was great and mighty, and Thor could hit it with claps, to make noise like claps of thunder. Yeah. The problem was, it was just a little bit short. But, the smith pointed out, because all smiths know how to be a salesman, that means that you can kind of hang it around your neck or something like that, and that's really useful. I think that joke probably was a later addition to the story. Maybe they got different jokes attached to it. But the long and short of the matter was that the Aesir decided that Loki, who was the man who'd set the bet, had lost his bet, which meant that Loki forfeited his head, which meant that the dwarf went away to get an axe and sharpen it up really nice and sharp so it could cut off Loki's head. At which point Loki said, okay, hang on a minute, you've won the bet, fair enough, fair and square, but you've only won my head. You can't take any of my neck. So the smith thought for a while, and as he was thinking, he was sharpening, getting the head of the axe so fine that it could cut the legs off a fly. And he thought, hang on a minute, that fly? Loki's a shape changer. I can see what Loki was doing, but how could he prove it? No way. I mean, if he chopped off one of Loki's legs and then Loki had turned up with one less leg, maybe that could have proved it, but flies have got more legs than that, and maybe it would just be something else he'd chop off Loki. And that might affect the other story, and Loki might have lost a member that was really quite useful for making Skadi laugh. But maybe not. So, also he couldn't work out where the head stops and where the neck starts. It was really difficult to just take the head off somebody and not take any of their neck. So he reckoned he'd been rightly shafted by Loki. So what he did was he got a needle and he got some thread, some sinew, and sewed Loki's mouth shut to stop him making idle boasts and brags again. And everybody laughed, because they were kids. I mean, your friend's just had his mouth sewn shut after he's managed to bring back 6 treasures for you. And you laugh at him! So Loki, quite rightly, was a bit annoyed and left. And ever since then, in all the stories which follow on after that one, I mean, once you put them together into this kind of timeline that sort of shows a progress that doesn't necessarily exist in the individual stories to start off with. But once you do that, it shows that all the stories that follow on after this one are of Loki being just a little bit more annoyed, a little bit more malicious, and the smile that he has is always a little bit crooked. And that's the end of that for today.